Hello there, people of the internet. I'm currently making some stew, and it's currently on the stove right now, and I'm just kind of waiting for it to cook. I'm gonna let it, slow simmer for about 6 hours or so. So I got a little bit of time to kill. And one of the things while I'm making this stew is I'm talking to random people online, and actually this was last night when I was talking to this guy, but I was reminded of this conversation. I was having a conversation with a viewer, and I decided to myself, you know what? This would make a really cool idea for a video. So we were talking, and we came up with the idea that having a poorly armed group of people would be a better idea to bring into the end of the world situation than one very good, very well armed individual. And let me go ahead and explain that. If there was you, and you had yourself, cutting edge AR platform and decent optics and chest rig and just all of the things that you need to be able to take on the end of the world, whatever it is that your choice is. I don't care if you're an AR guy or an AK guy, just pick your poison, right? If you have you that is very well armed and you go into the end of the world, you have you that is very well armed. Of course, having more people would definitely be very beneficial. Now, of course, you would want these other people to be very well armed. That's where you get the most substantial setup. Whenever you have a bunch of people that have the proper equipment and decent equipment to be able to handle the situations that you might come across. However, I would rather have a group of people that are not very well armed than be just myself as a very well armed individual, for a multitude of reasons. If you are going into the end of the world, it doesn't necessarily have to be the end of the world. Like, whenever I say end of the world, people think like cities burning and whatnot. Let's say you're just in a situation where, I don't know, you're in a plane crash and your plane goes down and somebody on the plane was shipping some old antique firearms, and now you're in the woods with a bunch of old antique firearms lost somewhere in, I don't know, the Appalachians or something like that. And now you gotta survive while you're out there. Well, I'd rather have a bunch of dudes with rifles like this than than one person with some decent equipment. And whenever you're in a situation where you're away from civilization and you have to start like building yourself something up. Now in the Appalachians, you're probably just going to go back and find some civilization. Perhaps that wasn't the best analogy. But if you are in the wilderness and you know that you're not going to make your way towards civilization and you're going to have to start building yourself up, having multiple people to be able to help the little community that you are starting to create build its resources and whatnot is definitely going to be better than having just you out there trying to build these resources. You're going to have people who can do mechanical stuff and engineering stuff and be able to build things like architecturally speaking that are going to be stable. You have to have people that are able to produce the lumber from the trees that are around you, assuming that you don't already have lumber on person. Having somebody who knows how to do metal work and whatnot would definitely be a very good idea, especially if he is familiar with the concept of primitive metalwork, about just gathering raw iron basically from the dirt that is around us and using that, or potentially scrap iron or something like that, getting yourself one of those wood kilns and getting that hot enough to be able to forge this iron. Having somebody who knows how to do these things, primitively speaking, would also be a good way to go. Knowing somebody that gets food and they know how to farm and whatnot, they know agriculture, they know the proper ways to grow whatever it is you're looking to grow in the area it is that you're in. Having people for all these different things, potentially having those skill set already, but potentially even learning those skill sets whenever you are in a dire situation. Learning certain skill sets can often be something that is, a pressing matter. Having all of these people armed as well would also be a very, very good idea. And if you're in a situation like I am in, where I've got my set of practical stuff and I got like 2 or 3 things that I could practically use as a buddy setup, but if I have a bunch of people show up, they're getting old school military surplus rifles, and that's just how it is because I already own these old school military surplus rifles. I would rather have a bunch of people armed with these old school milsurps than have just me armed with my stuff. The old school milsurp rifles, and they don't necessarily have to be old school milsurps, just insert your choice of bolt action here. They can be used for defensive situations, and I mean, they have been used for more than that, both defensive and offensive situations for a very, very long time. This particular rifle was made in 1933. This is a Turkish Mauser. And I mean, just the bolt action systems back whenever smokeless powder really became more mainstream, whenever the French invented it back in 1886, that bolt action system that became the repeating smokeless powder rifle that a lot of countries ended up adopting during that time period, that system stayed in play for a very long time, and to the point to where modern bolt action rifles are based off of a lot of those systems, especially the Mauser actions. It's definitely one of the better of the actions. But these rifles are absolutely capable for handling a defensive situation. And if I have, 5 guys, I have my farmer, I have my mechanic, I have my blacksmith, I have my doctor, I have, insert 5th guy of choice right here. Maybe I'm the 5th guy. And we all have bolt action rifles, and we are able to sustain the community that we are creating and, provide nourishment and shelter and whatnot, the necessary things for that community, which is going to be definitely an essential thing if you are in a situation where you're not getting resupplied or anything like that. Having 5 guys, even though they are not quite as well armed as the one individual with the AR platform, those 5 guys with those bolt action rifles would likely be able to tactically be able to overcome one dude with an AR platform. Now, 5 dudes with an AR platform taking on 5 dudes with bolt action rifles, that's a different story. And you never know what it is that you're going to come across. But if I had to pick between being a lone wolf with just my good proper setup and picking, a tribe to be in that is not necessarily all that well armed, I would take the not all that well armed tribe. And it's a very interesting concept. Now, does it have any application for a real life situation? No. I mean, you're going to have people out there that are not very well armed, but for the most part, like if somebody wants to get ready for the end of the world, they're going to get the best stuff that they can possibly get their hands on, or what they believe would be the best stuff to possibly get their hands on. Kevin's screaming in the background, and it looks like we have some rain coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up this video. But if you have people looking to get ready for that situation, then they're going to get their best stuff. There's arguments as to why military surplus stuff could potentially be considered some of the best stuff. It is definitely some very high quality equipment for the amount of money that you pay. This rifle right here, I would not be concerned about breaking this rifle out in the field, whereas if I had like a budget AR-15 or something like that and like a tree branch fell on it, that could potentially break that rifle. Or if I was out there with, budget sights or a budget optic or something like that and I dropped my rifle, hey, now my rifle is off 0 and I'm trying to hit whoever is shooting at me, and now I can't because I'm hitting 4 feet to the left because I knocked off my budget sights. Well, that's definitely not going to happen with these old school milsurp sights. But I find the concept fun. I figured that this would be a fun video to make. I would rather have 5 guys that are poorly armed and very capable with the other things that they are doing than be on my own, but very well armed. What do you guys think? Let me know what you guys think about this particular topic down in the comments section below. I imagine that you guys are probably going to be doing that anyway, and I imagine many of you will not even make it this far into the video. Stay right there, camera. Don't you go anywhere. But I'm out here with my Turk Mauser, and I've already fired corrosive ammo through it, so I might as well send some more. Ow. This is 198 Yugoslavian stuff, so it's definitely got a little bit of recoil behind it. It's got some spice. And with this 198 grain stuff, that's definitely a powerful rifle. This is more powerful than the AR platform. If you have some guys who have very good eyesight, better eyesight than myself, and you have somebody with an AR platform giving you problems, but he's 1,000 yards away, maybe having somebody with a full power rifle like this would be the better option. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a full power rifle like this. If you have somebody with a modern 6.5 Creedmoor, that would also be a very good option, even if it is just a standard old bolt action. That poor steel down there has been through so much. I would like to be able to see, I would like to get myself a slow motion camera that is strong enough for me to be able to see just how disintegrated these rounds get whenever they smack into their target. I feel like that would be a fun time. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. I wanted to go ahead and talk about this because it was an interesting concept. And yeah, without this video getting too rambly, I think I've made my point across. And I would definitely prefer, if I was in a tribe or a group, for everybody to be as well armed as possible. Like I said, this doesn't really hold any real world application. If I was going to arm a group of people, I wouldn't go out and spend, you know, $400 on a bolt action rifle. I would spend $500 on a bunch of AR-15s and mags and ammo to be able to run those platforms very effectively. Like, the amount of money that you spend on these old milsurps, it's just not worth it nowadays. But if you're in a situation like I'm in, I've already got a bunch of these old milsurps, so if something goes down, somebody's going to get some milsurp rifles if they show up here on my property to be able to help me defend and keep the peace. I would rather have a bunch of guys armed with old school milsurps and be able to live life, be able to move comfortably, be able to do the things that it is that we're doing. Like, for example, I'm a pretty good mechanic. I know hunting and I know fishing and I know all this sort of stuff, but I'm not necessarily the best at farming and gardening. So if I have somebody show up who is good at that, hey, guess what? Well, I'm already going to have certain people showing up to take my modern usable buddy equipment, so they're gonna have that. I'm gonna be like, hey, guess what, you get yourself a bolt action rifle. It's a hell of a lot better than nothing, and you're already in this group of multiple people. Now, that doesn't really hold a candle to this conversation because we will have people mixed in with that group who have modern capable stuff. The idea that I'm talking about is if I did not have any modern stuff, let's say I was strictly like an antique collector, and all I had was these old school milsurps. Well, I would rather, you know, have 5 skilled people show up, or 5 people willing to learn the skilled show up, and we all use antique rifles, than me just be one person with modern stuff. I think it's a really interesting concept. Uh-oh, I hear rain. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share, description below, link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. I'm gonna run to my house before the rain gets more intense. I'll see y'all later. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. Shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.